Racist rhetoric against Asians and Asian Americans has become a real problem in the U.S. amid the coronavirus that originated in China. The president is promoting this kind of language. He refers to and has referred to the virus as the China virus, as the Kung flu. And Asian Americans are reporting an increase in racist encounters. After one of my CNN colleagues, Amara Walker, experienced 3 such incidents during just one trip to New Orleans International Airport, she talked about it online, on Twitter. She wrote, quote, "I hate that I have to say this, but I belong. We Asian Americans belong. I was born and raised in the U.S. I am as American as apple pie, and I am as American as Korean barbecue. I am American. Please don't question me about that fact ever." Amara Walker is joining us now. Amara, thank you for writing about this. I think this was so important for people to understand what a lot of Asians and Asian Americans in the U.S. have been going through. Tell us what happened to you.
And that's why I wrote about it. You know, I wanted to be a voice for so many of us Asian Americans who don't speak out when these kinds of things happen. And I do want to say, Brianna, if I had encountered just one racially charged incident yesterday, I wouldn't have probably posted about it. But it was the fact that it happened back to back to back within a span of an hour, Brianna, is what really shook me to my core. And right now, I have to admit, I'm shaking right now. I still can't believe that we went through this, that I went through this. Okay, so here's what happened. First incident, I'm walking through the airport. An older gentleman stops, he pulls down his mask, looks at me, and says ni hao, which is hello in Chinese, and then ching chong, which is a racial slur that's been used for decades. And I was stunned. I mean, this has happened to me before, sadly, but every time it happens, it shocks me. And like I've done in the past, I just kept walking. I didn't know what to say. And he walked away, and the more I thought about it, my blood was just boiling. And thankfully, I ran into him inside the terminal. He was standing right behind me when I was trying to buy souvenirs for my husband and daughter. And I turned around and I said to him in a really stern voice, I said, "Do you understand what you said to me was racist and it was racially charged? Do you understand, sir?" And he kind of looked at me with a smug look, and he just said, I don't know what you're talking about, and he walked away.
Wow.
And so then I walked to the gate where my producer was sitting, and I was like, "You won't believe what just happened. I'm really upset. Here's what happened." And I'm not kidding. As if on cue, literally within like 5 minutes, a young man walks up right in front of me while I'm sitting at my gate, and he's not wearing a mask. He comes right up to my face and says, "Hey, do you speak English?" And I was like, I can't believe this is happening. And the first thing, I mean, I shot back immediately because I was already angry. And I said to him, "Why would you assume that I don't speak English? Tell me, why would you assume I don't speak English?" And he said, well, no, what language do you speak?" And I said, "Well, obviously English, but I also speak Spanish," because I knew he was expecting that I would say Chinese or Japanese or Korean. Anyway, I mean, and then he started to mumble and speak incoherently. It sounded like he was mocking the Asian language. My producer was really disturbed by all this. And also the people who were sitting at the gate started yelling at him to get away from me, because I kept telling him, "You got to leave me alone. We're in a pandemic, you know, put on a mask."
Because he was getting close, he was not wearing a mask, and he was getting close to you.
Exactly, right. You know, and so he was in my personal space.
And then your producer basically got security, right? Got a police officer, and then what happened?
Yeah, he interjected, so the officer, this is where, talk about pouring salt into a gaping wound, right? I mean, I told the officer what happened, Brianna, and my producer, who was upset, said, "Yeah, and you know, this guy was saying racial slurs to her. Can you believe that?" The police officer stopped. He approached my producer, literally, again, almost nose to nose, and again, we're in a pandemic. And he said very angrily, "That is not racist. Asking someone if they speak English, that is not racist, okay? Do you understand me?" And I mean, this police officer was, I would say, 6'4", I mean, he was huge. And I was intimidated. Everyone around us was watching. My poor producer was, you know, both nervous and scared. And we said, okay, fine, it wasn't racist. And he walked away. They did track him down, but you know, I was so shaken by all of this and so disturbed that my producer kind of shooed me onto the plane and said, just you got to get away from this, you know. But I do, you know, want to say that my producer was extremely defensive of me. And also, there was about 5 or 6 people who were sitting at the gate who came to my defense and were apologizing for no reason. They had nothing to apologize for, but they expressed their shock.
Yeah, I mean, it's thank goodness that they were there also just to kind of back you up and support you. But you write in this talking about getting made fun of as a child. But I also wonder if here in just in the sort of like, you know, recent years, but the pre-COVID era, did you ever experience anything like this? I know you travel a lot for work. Have you ever been through anything like this?
No, absolutely not. I mean, for it to happen, and look, these were all, I believe, were unrelated incidents, right? But for it to happen so quickly in succession within about 45 minutes to an hour, that to me was what knocked me off my feet. And Brianna, I want to make it clear, it's not about me. Because Asian Americans across the country deal with this on a regular basis, and we're not talking about it. And many Asian Americans don't raise their voices, including myself. I probably wouldn't have written about this if this wasn't so egregious. And this is why I'm speaking out. I'm normally a private person, but I want to be that voice. And I have to say, I've gotten so many emails from strangers and even colleagues at CNN that I've never met who are Asian or of Asian descent. And they said, thank you so much for talking about this and explaining to people why it is racially insensitive to assume that I don't speak English or anyone else that looks like me doesn't speak English. Why would you assume that? Because you're saying that this is not American, that we are foreigners. You're marginalizing us, and you're telling us we don't belong. And I hate, and I wrote in my piece, or you know, on my post, that I hate that I have to say I belong. I'm American as you. Why do I have to justify that I'm American? Why? Because of the way I look? You're judging me by my skin color?
Yeah, no, you shouldn't have to. And look, you normally tell other people's stories, so I know it's kind of a weird position for you to be in, but I also think there's so many people going through this who don't have the platform you have. And like you said, clearly they're appreciative that this is being discussed. They're going through this. You unfortunately have been through this, Amara. And I really want to thank you for coming on and talking about it and putting a face on it. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I just mention one thing, Brianna?
Sure.
I mentioned in my post that, you know, for the sake of the story, the first gentleman who approached me was a man of color, and I got a little bit of flack about that on social media. I mentioned it, and because there's this misconception out there that only white people are racist, or you can't be racist if you're a minority. This man, I believe, looked to be South Asian.
Okay. Amara, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.